to complete preparation for accused number 1, Muzi Sibiya's defense. The matter will continue next month. Mniso also represents accused number 3, Mthobisi Ncube. He took over the defense of Sibiya in January after his former lawyer, Tulani Mgomezulu, died last year. Mnisi told the court that he is mindful of the impact the delays could have on the case.
I am very mindful of the fact that justice delayed is justice denied. I would therefore not have embarked on a scheme to willfully delay the proceedings or hold them at ransom. I am perfectly aware that the accused are going through agonizing time with the trial hanging over their heads like a sword. They are keen to know their fate in the matter. The same principle goes to the family members of the deceased and all the people who take interest in the matter.
The Johannesburg Metropolitan Police Department has confirmed the arrest of a 32-year-old suspect in connection with the murder of community patrollers in an informal settlement in northern Pretoria. The incident happened in the Merrimee informal settlement in Soshanguve last month. The arrest was made on Saturday after officers received a tip-off. JMPD spokesperson Tolani Fihla.
Acting on the information, officers located the suspect who matched the provided description at a specific residence. The officers tactically entered the property, managed to search the premises and apprehended the wanted suspect hiding behind a refrigerator in the kitchen. During the arrest, an unlicensed firearm and 1 live round of ammunition were found in the suspect's possession. The firearm was seized and submitted for ballistic testing. The suspect was detained at Soshanguve SAPS and is due to appear in court soon.
The Roman Catholic Cathedral of Christ the King will hold a memorial service for the late Pope Francis in Johannesburg tomorrow. The Pope died yesterday at the age of 88 following weeks of poor health. His funeral will be held on Saturday at St. Peter's Basilica. Ditaba Tsotetsi reports.
The funeral service of Pope Francis will be presided over by Cardinal Giovanni Battista and the Dean of College of Cardinals. The proceedings will be open to patriarchs, cardinals, archbishops, bishops and priests. Today, the cardinals in Rome will meet to discuss the process of electing a new pope.
And finally, the South African Weather Services has issued a level 5 weather warning for parts of the Eastern Cape. This includes heavy disruptive rains which may lead to localized flooding and a possible danger to life. The affected areas include the Buffalo City Metro, Amathole and OR Tambo district. Weather forecaster Ayabonga Chungwana has called on communities to be on high alert during this period.
Those systems will result in a cloudy conditions with a good chance of showers and rain. Also some possible thunderstorms in the northern parts of the Eastern Cape. And places along the east coast, we expect more precipitation to fall.
The top story this hour, the Premier of Mpumalanga, Mandla Ndlovu, has instituted an investigation into the procurement of 22 laptops valued at over 2 million rand by the Provincial Education Department. Headlines at 1:30 for SFM News. Sam Kolofelo, therefore.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 106.6 FM in Bloemfontein.
When using the road this Easter holiday, please note that these are some of South Africa's high-risk roads. R573 Moloto Road in Gauteng, Mpumalanga and Limpopo. R71 Mankweng in Limpopo. N2 Duchwa in Eastern Cape, N2 Mount Aleph in Eastern Cape, N2 Libote in Eastern Cape, N1 Naboomspruit in Limpopo. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
El Clasico is here. Barcelona takes on Real Madrid in the Copa del Rey final. And you can catch every moment on S3 or stream live on SABC+. Watch two of the world's biggest teams fight for Spanish football's ultimate trophy. Don't miss out on the heart-pounding action. Head to sabcplus.com to register right now. Or tune into S3 on Saturday 26 April at 9:30 p.m. for the live broadcast. This is the Copa del Rey final. Barcelona versus Real Madrid. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport, your home of great football. For the love of the game.
April is Freedom Month, a month to reflect, celebrate, and move forward. SAFM is bringing you powerful stories, insightful debates, and voices that shape our nation. Stay tuned to SAFM, where freedom, history, and the future meet. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Phuma namkosi ndiyaphuma ndifihle kwingozi nentsha nayo yonke imimoya thatha indawo njengosomandla sindisa impilo yami kwababantu abalunganga kuba namhlanje ndibonile uba silwe nenyanga silwa nemimoya namhlanje ndibonile uba asilwe nabantu thina silwa nemimoya asilwe nabantu thina asilwe nabantu thina silwa nemimoya asilwe nabantu thina asilwe nabantu thina silwa nemimoya silwa nemimoya silwa nemimoya silwa nemimoya silwa nemimoya silwa nemimoya ezinye izinto azilungi nobungazama zibanjwe emoyeni ezimfazwe sizibonileyo aziqali namhlanje ziqale emoyeni ngoba emoyeni kuyaliwa emoyeni 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 kuyaliwa asilwe nabantu asilwe nabantu thina silwa nemimoya asilwe nabantu thina asilwe nabantu thina silwa nemimoya 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 silwa nemimoya
Coming through. Imimoya is the name of this wonderful track. A beautiful, beautiful song. One of those that stays in repeat in my own personal playlist. Wonderfully, wonderfully produced. And of course, vocally just incomparable. That is how we kick off the show today, bringing us to 1:10 o'clock. Entering yet another very short week indeed. Aren't you so lucky? Have yourself a 4-day week going into another 4-day week. Lucky are you. I hope you enjoyed your long weekend and you've made it back into your respective cities safely with your family. We have a lot of conversation coming through today. We're going to be catching up with the pension fund adjudicator, and we're speaking on the death benefit nomination form. Everything that we need to know about the death benefit nomination form, including a ruling against a sperm donor's children's death benefit case. We'll find out more, though, about the nitty-gritties of this particular case and how things went there. We'll also be catching up with economist Davi Root in a moment alongside musician Majosi, and we're going to be looking at this academy that they're going to be hosting, a week-long academy online for entrepreneurs out there, and we'll find out more about that. And it's specifically for young entrepreneurs, those between the ages of 9 and 6. So everyone has been sending me this, and it was just by sheer chance that my team actually put it on the schedule today. But for the last 2 weeks, I have been getting forwarded this little, I guess, clickbait poster, the rise of women having babies in their 40s. Are we seeing a shift in societal norms? So that conversation is coming up after 2:00, the rise of women having babies in their 40s. And I think it speaks to a lot. It speaks to a shift in social norms on the one end. And if you speak to a lot of IVF specialists as well in the country, it also speaks to some of the data that they are encountering and the fact that even in countries with healthy populations like South Africa that never had population growth issues before, there seems to be something happening in that demographic of women in their mid to late 30s exhibiting some kind of biophysical struggles to have children. And so this is leading to more and more women having children in their late 40s. But we'll speak to all the different factors that pertain to that conversation that's coming up on the other side of 2:00. As per usual, our lines of communication are open on 061 410 4107. That's our WhatsApp line. And 086 000 2032 is the number that you can call us on.
What is your money doing right now? Is it lazing around in that other account because you're not sure where to move it for premium growth? Well, let's make it work hard in a Standard Bank Money Market Select investment account, where we'll grow it with a nominal interest of up to 7.9% on a minimum deposit of 100,000 Rand. Plus, you get access to your funds anytime. Open yours online or on our app today. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
The Spanish Princess series continues the story of Queen Catherine and Henry VIII. Catherine's struggle to produce an heir places her marriage and position in the court at risk, and she's haunted by her choices from the past. Despite proving herself a politician, a diplomat, and a national inspiration, and even a military commander, Catherine must battle to save her love with the king and to preserve the peace and prosperity of their reign. The Spanish Princess Season 2 airs Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
It is the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga of, Bridget Masinga on SAFM. I was going to say of SAFM. I guess one and the same, really, right? And we're going to have a conversation now looking at the death benefit nomination form and finding out more about, just exactly how the death benefit nomination form works, everything that we need to know about it, as well as an interesting case that happened. In fact, we're going to look at hopefully 2 cases where a stepdaughter launched a complaint with the Office of the Pension Fund's adjudicator on behalf of herself and her mother, who was the deceased's estranged wife. And the pension fund adjudicator took a ruling in this regard. If you have any questions around this or anything else that speaks to the death benefit nomination form, you're more than welcome, in fact encouraged, to send through a voice note on 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line, and 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. My guest now, Mubango Lukaimane, joins us, the pension fund adjudicator, to walk us through some of the nitty-gritties surrounding these issues. How are you doing this afternoon, Mubango?
I'm well, and you, and good afternoon to your listeners.
I'm great. Thank you so much for the time. Just to clue those who are like myself, who are not abreast as to what is exactly the death benefit nomination form, and how does it work?
The reason that we have a death benefit nomination form in the first place is that pension fund benefits do not form part of a person's estate. So you cannot order how your death benefit must be divided amongst your beneficiaries in a will, because it doesn't form part of the estate. Therefore, the legislation, the Pension Funds Act, makes provision for all members to be able to complete a beneficiary nomination form, and indicating who they wish to benefit from their pension fund benefit if they should pass away whilst in employment.
Oh, I see. Okay, so this speaks to obviously those in employment situations where a pension fund would be applicable. And so that pension fund doesn't necessarily form part of the other sort of deceased documents, things like wills and okay. I see. So by way of just the workings of it, it's just a normal nomination, like one would, for any other kind of beneficiary, where you state who benefits and how much they benefit from your pension fund.
Yes. Ideally, a beneficiary nomination form will ask the name of the person that you wish to have benefit. You'll also give the percentage of the benefit that you want them to receive. In addition to that, you will indicate your relationship with that person. Mm-hmm. And a beneficiary nomination form will provide for two sets of categories of people that you can nominate. Mm-hmm. It will provide for dependents, and it will also provide for nominees. So it will give you an areas where you can say, these people, I want them to benefit from my pension fund because they are dependent on me. Then it will give you a section where maybe people that are not necessarily dependent on you, but you wish for them to benefit. Those are people that we call nominees. It is possible for some of your nominees to also be your dependents, but sometimes nominees don't necessarily have to be dependents.
In the instance where there is no nomination form, there is no death benefit nomination form that was filled out, or where it's out of, or let's stay with the filled out actually. In the instance where there is no nomination form that was filled out, what then happens in those scenarios?
Well, in actual fact, the situation will be the same for whether there was a form or not, because you will complete the beneficiary nomination form, but that beneficiary nomination form is not binding on the trustees of the fund. The board of the fund, when you have passed away and now they must determine who gets what, they are supposed to do an investigation in terms of Section 37C of the Pension Funds Act, and that investigation is really to hone down who were your dependents, and to what extent were those people dependent on you. one of the things that they will consider, of course, is the nomination form, but it's not binding on them. It doesn't. They can choose to give one if their investigation shows that maybe there's not sufficient money for all the dependents. They can reduce certain percentages of what you had indicated. They can even choose to give other dependents, legal dependents, maybe that were not financially dependent on you at the date of your death. They can choose to give those 0%. So the form at the end is just your wish list, sort of. It can't completely be ignored without giving reasons, but it is not binding.
So then, if I may ask quite bluntly, then what is the point of the form if it's not binding and there's still some kind of powers given to this board of executors to be able to interpret or reinterpret what would have been your wishes?
Well, Section 37C of the Act of the Pension Funds Act fulfills what is a social purpose. So its basic purpose is that you cannot leave people that were dependent on you financially destitute when you pass on. So we have to then say, for example, you just talked about an instance where a form might be outdated. Someone might neglect to update their form and then have two children that are legally theirs. They were dependent on them, but they are not sitting on the form. So what the board must do when a member passes away is the board must go and investigate and say who was dependent on this member. They will give out some forms, claim forms. People will complete their details. They'll say this is how the deceased was supporting me. It was to this extent. And then when the board has all that information, then they must investigate, because they must take everybody's financial position. So there are certain things that they must look at. They must look at your relationship with the deceased. They'll consider your age. They'll consider your financial circumstances. They'll consider, all sorts of things, whether you maybe a person who is disabled or not disabled, before they can then say, we'll give 10% must go to this person, 15%. So the form does serve a purpose, because it also gives the board a sense of where to start, who else must be looked for. But it doesn't determine who gets what.
Okay. I mean, I guess there is a fairness to some degree, especially when you talk about in the instance of an outdated form where your life circumstances may have changed and you have more beneficiaries that are not stated in the form that might have a legal claim, especially a legal birth claim to some of your funds. I guess in that instance it makes sense. Our lines are open on 061-410-4107. That is our WhatsApp line, and we're talking the death benefit nomination form. 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on, and we've got Umubango joining us, Umubango Lukaimane, who is the pension fund adjudicator. So well placed to answer your questions, give you a sense of clarity. Maybe you have a matter that is pending right now that regards your pension fund, and you're a bit confused and you need some clarity or some direction, a sense of direction as to how you should proceed. Mubango would be the right person to give you some information to help you along your process. Obviously, with these kinds of conversations, because she's not cast eyes on your nuance of your case, she can't give you the exact advice, but she can give you some information that maybe can help you get some clarity, or maybe help you direct you to the right door that you need to be knocking in. So this is a time for you to give us a call. My producers are standing by to take your numbers, or you can send us a voice note. Try to get to the crux of your matter. Can give us some context, but try to get to the crux of your matter, so at least we can get to it. Don't diddle daddle. Don't diddle daddle, because then you guys want to hear the conversation unfold, and then when we say goodbye to the guest, then suddenly you want to bombard us with all the questions and the guest is gone. 061-410-4107 is our WhatsApp line. 086-000-2032 is the number that you can call us on. I want to also, Mbango, maybe if we can get to one of these cases.
Yes.
So I know that there was a case where a stepdaughter, from what I understand, had lodged a complaint with the Office of the Pension Funds Adjudicator on behalf of herself and her mother, who at the time was estranged from the deceased, but I figure still married by way of the legalities of the law. What can you tell us about a situation like that?
When the board takes a decision, they look at two factors. The first thing that they must do is establish whether you were a dependent or not, and that the Act defines three sets of dependents: a legal dependent, that would be a spouse, a child, parents, grandchildren. So those are your legal dependents. Then it has factual dependents. Factual dependents might be your extended family that you support on a regular basis, your nephew, your niece, your uncle. If there is some form of a regular payment that you give to that person, your girlfriends that might be dependent on, those would be factual dependents. Then there are future dependents. Those are people that could be your parents, because maybe they are nearing retirement age, and if you could support them when they get into retirement age, you would. Then once you have worked out who is a dependent, then the next step is what was the extent of their dependency. So the mere fact that you were a dependent doesn't mean you are going to get anything. They must still establish what the extent of your dependency was. So most people make the mistake of thinking that if we are still married but don't live together, we are estranged, people just leave and then they don't terminate the marital relationship. But these people are no longer, the one does not depend on the other. They are basically living separate lives. Yes, in terms of if you were married in community of property and whatever, you'll come back and you'll claim those things from the estate. But pension fund monies, you will not get anything, because the next step in the investigation, which is what was the extent of your dependency at the time that the deceased passed away, will indicate that it was zero. So although you are classified as a legal dependent, the extent of your dependency was nil. Therefore, the allocation will be nil.
Interesting. Let's take a quick pause for the headline news, and then we'll come back on the other side. Our WhatsApp is open for you on 061-410-4107. And of course, you can always give us a call on our live studio line on 086-000-2032.
Good afternoon, I'm Kolofelo, therefore with the headlines. Mpumalanga Premier Mandla Ndlovu has instituted an investigation into the procurement of 22 laptops valued at over 2 million rand by the Provincial Education Department. The ANC in the Northern Cape says it is preparing itself for tough local government elections next year following their decline in the 2024 national and provincial elections. And further afield, the price of gold has hit a new high, and US stocks and the dollar suffered further falls amid continuing market unease over U.S. economic policy. I'll have the details at 2.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
All right, we have our lines open for you to be in conversation with my guest, who is the pension fund adjudicator. because we aim to arm you with some information on this show. So you can send us a voice note on 061-410-4107, or you can give us a call on 086-000-2032. I know a lot of the times these kinds of matters require some context in order for us to follow your story and for my guests to point you in the right direction. But if you can keep it as concise as possible, so that we can also get to the other folks. And I'm going to get to the phone lines now, but I just wanted to ask this question. Someone sent a question on WhatsApp saying, what does I guess they meant to say, why does the government keep 50% of the late person's pension? Maybe that talks to how much is taxed of the pension fund. Some clarity there?
Yes, the death benefit, unfortunately, is subject to taxation, but maybe also they mean that there are funds where the allocation in terms of what we are talking about now with the beneficiary nomination form really talks to the lump sum, to the allocation of the lump sum amount. There are certain funds where you find that there can be an indication that maybe 50% of the benefit is payable as a pension, and then 50% as a lump sum. So then the amount that is payable as a pension will be kept back and then paid in monthly installments to the person who would qualify to receive such a pension. Usually it will be the spouse, or it will be the minor children, because the rest of the other people would be people that would be deemed to be able to handle a lump sum amount or what. And not that the spouse cannot, but there is provision in some funds for a portion of the spouse's benefit to be paid as a lump sum. And in those instances, the spouse would be the person that the member had indicated on the form as the spouse, because sometimes people, and that person, it might also be a requirement that the person must have been married to that person. There are certain requirements. It's not automatic that the person that you would have been married to at the time of your death would be the person that's entitled to the pension.
Oh, okay. Let's go to Sam. Sam, how are you?
I'm well, and how are you, Bridget?
I'm good. Go ahead.
Okay, Bridget, my son is now 24. The mother passed away when my son was 11 years old. We were married in commutal property. And I never claimed pension for my son. For the past, since January, we went to GPS, Guardian Fund. We were taken from pillar to post for the benefits of my son, and they could not find any. But to my surprise, the younger sister of my son received her portion, and I also received my portion. And I do have a letter that indicated that at the time of death, the allocation for my son was this much. So last week, 2 weeks back, when we were at Guardian Fund, we were sent to Master of the High Court. From Master of the High Court, they could not find anything. We were sent back to GPF. GPF, the person sitting behind the computer could not assist us. Back to Guardian Fund. And this has been going on for about 3 years.
Okay, question?
The question is, where must we go in order to get the money? Where must my son go in order to get his money?
Okay. All right. Thanks, Sam. Please listen on the radio. Tabo in the Val.
Hi, Bridget.
How are you?
I'm good. Just want to ask a question here. In event of death benefit, so is there a possibility that maybe the mother of your children can claim even though you guys have separated and she's not even a guardian?
Is there a possibility that the mother of your children can claim even though you are separated?
Yeah.
and she's not a guardian of your children?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's throw it over to Mubango.
Okay, the first instance, the caller was doing the right thing. What they need to go back is they need to go back to the GEPF, and the GEPF must say what the total benefit was that was payable when the spouse died or when the mother died, and then indicate who were the beneficiaries of that money. And if the portion of the child was not, if they are saying that the portion of the child was paid, then they must say where that amount was paid to, who received it. Because sometimes you might find that maybe there was another, because the child was 11 years old, as you're saying, maybe there was another relative of the mother that might have gone and said, this child is under my custody or whatever, and those monies were paid to that person. But the fact of the matter is the GEPF in terms of minors will pay through to the guardian fund. But the first place where they must first go and get confirmation of where the GEPF has paid that money to. But if the GEPF are saying we never paid this beneficiary, then they must ask for what was the total benefit and how was it allocated in percentages, so that maybe they need to challenge that in the first place. Maybe the child was not allocated anything, whatever could have happened. But if they don't get joy from the GEPF, which sounds like they have been going up and down for a while, they must then contact the Government Employees Pension Ombudsman. There is a special office that is set up for GEPF for pension fund complaints, and that is GEPO. Unfortunately, I don't have the contact details in front of me now, but they can look it up. That's the Government Employees Pension Ombudsman.
All righty.
And the other issue,
yes,
with the mother of the children separated. No, the only portion he has already said that person is not the guardian of the children. Then the amounts that are payable to the children will be paid over to the guardian and not to the mother.
Okay. And then the other question that we had on WhatsApp, can one nominate their creditor, their mortgage bond holders, example, a bank? Will this not be overturned by the executives? This is from Alfred.
No, unfortunately, it has to be a natural person, of course, or it can be a trust, and that trust must be set up for the benefit of the beneficiaries. So money payable by a pension fund as a death benefit can never be used as surety for a loan or anything. There is actually a special prohibition in the Pension Funds Act against that.
All right. I want to just take a quick pause here for a break, and then we'll come back. We'll just get to the 2 voice notes, and hopefully you give some clarity there, and then we will wrap our conversation.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Rise and Shine are not willing to drop their heads as they chase victory to maintain a good top half position. But Matsatsansa Pitori are in a deep hunt for 3 points to escape from danger. Catch the exciting battle of Mzansi's football, Polokwane City FC versus SuperSport United FC on Saturday, 26 April at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
If you're
active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. Let's have the conversation. WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107.
Hi, I'd just like to ask why if one is deceased and they don't give like beneficiaries like the whole pension fund, they just give them 50%. Why is the government taking the other 50% and not giving them all the money? Thank you.
Good afternoon, SAFM family. I have a question. My mom was a nurse with the Department of Health. At the time that she passed on, I was 16. However, I never got my share of the pension funds. My sister, who was 10 at the time, when she turned 18, she was able to claim from the fund. And then my brother is turning 18 next year, so he will be able to claim as well. I was 16 at the time. She passed on. I was staying with her, totally dependent on her, but I never got any of her monies from the pension fund. So I need advice as to what can I do. I'm 33 now. I was 16 at the time. Thank you.
All right. Mubango, perhaps some clarity there. What can be done, if anything, for this young lady?
Yes. Again, it's similar to the first instance. They must approach the government employees pension fund with their mother's details and then ask to see how the benefit was allocated, and then take it from there to see. Sometimes it might be that a portion of a child was paid to the parents, maybe their father, and the others was kept back maybe because of their age or something. So they first need to see why they were left out. And then if they are unhappy with that, then they can raise the issue with JEPO again, the ombud for the government employees pension.
Yeah.
But the other issue with the 50%, the government doesn't withhold anything except for tax, really. Everything gets paid out.
Yeah. And I wonder, just as a passing thought, in the instance where like this lady who's now 33, mom passed at 16, in the instance where perhaps a benefit was paid to a remaining guardian or a parent or a relative or whatever, is there kind of a legal recourse that can be taken there to retrieve the money? Or once the investigations were done at the time of death and it was found that the person was actually legitimately a claimant or was a legitimate beneficiary and the monies got paid into that person, there's nothing that she can do perhaps to go and recoup that money?
Well, if the money was paid to the legitimate guardian, to her legitimate guardian at the time, there is really nothing that she can do to recover the amount. But if the money was paid to an incorrect person, and the circumstances are such that the fund paid wrongfully to that person, meaning there was negligence or just a lapse in their processes, then she would most certainly be able to claim. However, I must warn of this. Where you can still go on and go and dig into things that happened a long time ago, that would most certainly be applicable to the government employees pension fund. But to the private pension funds that are registered under the Pension Funds Act, prescription actually applies. So, for example, the person that is 33 years old, if they were in pension funds that are regulated by the Pension Funds Act in the private space, they wouldn't be able to raise this issue because they would have had 3 years after turning 18 to pursue that aspect, and they didn't. Now the matter would have prescribed, unless, of course, if they do when they do the inquiry, the fund acknowledges that I'm actually holding a benefit back for you, which is this instance where we find people talking about all these unclaimed benefits that total billions and billions of money. So sometimes it can serve you to go and ask whether your money is still there, because maybe now it's sitting as an unclaimed benefit. But if it was paid wrongfully to somebody, then your claim would have prescribed because you would have had 3 years after turning the age of majority to claim.
Yeah, we appreciate your time this afternoon, and of course the information and knowledge that you've shared with our listeners. That was the pension fund adjudicator, Umubango Lukamaine, joining us. It's just gone 1:45. We're going to take a quick pause, and then we come back and we shift gears a little bit and have a look at this 5-week online entrepreneurship challenge for South African youth aged 9 to 16.
It's the catch of the season as our 3 madcap fishing fanatics are back, embarking on even a more exciting adventures across the globe. Get ready for bigger fish, bigger laughs, and more extreme destinations in a series packed with adrenaline-fueled fishing antics and plenty of friendly rivalry. Fishing Impossible Season 2, Fridays at 10 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
The Seagulls believe their fighting spirit will match their style of football as they chase valuable points.
Pedro in front of the Leicester fans against Hermanson, and he rolls it home. João Pedro gives Albion the lead.
While the Hammers have a big task to prevail away from home.
Clips it in there, and Bowen! And West Ham United have turned this game around.
This is the Premier League. Catch the nail-biting action. Brighton and Hove Albion versus West Ham United FC on Saturday, 26 April at 3:30 p.m. live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the
game. You are listening to The Full Circle.
We are catching up now with COA Academy Principal Mark Anderson, and in partnership with economist Davi Root and musician Majozi. COA Academy is set to host a free-of-charge 5-week online entrepreneurship challenge for South African youth aged between 9 to 16. How are you doing this afternoon, Mark?
Good afternoon, Bridget. I'm very well, thanks. Thank you for having me.
It's only but a pleasure. Okay. First and foremost, perhaps let's start with, the motivation behind putting together this 5-week program and why this particular age cohort of 9 to 16 years old.
Yeah, Bridget, we're really excited about this. We've wanted to do it for a while, and what we'll be doing over the course of the next few weeks is taking our students through a journey of teaching really important soft skills and content to be able to take any business idea from inception right through to seeing it as a reality. The reason that we've chosen this age group is because we think that it's a pivotal time for us to be teaching young people these key skills so that they can see that this is not just theory that I learn in a textbook. It's not just detached from reality. These are the real-world principles that I can learn at any age and actually make a difference not only in my own life but in my community around me. And they can see the impact of being able to take an idea and make it a reality for themselves. And you can imagine, Bridget, if you can teach a 9-year-old how to do this, imagine what that means when they're 19, when they're 29, what they'll be doing when they're 39, and how this can snowball and have such a positive impact on our community.
Now, is this by extension part and parcel of the work that COA Academy has been focused on in the past?
It's very much born out of what we love to do at COA. At COA, we're a full online school, and a lot of how we think is taking the opportunities and the access that we have in the online space and being able to bridge those gaps for students anywhere to be able to realize that, as I say, this is more than just academic. This is real-world opportunities that we're tapping into. And so over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, we've done a lot of this sort of teaching and learning, and we've seen the impact that it's had on our own students at COA. And what we're wanting to do now is open that up beyond the doors of COA and say, let's throw this out to anybody in South Africa who has this hunger to learn in the online space and the desire to grow, and make it accessible, because that's one of the amazing things about being online, is that with a click of a button, no matter where you are, if you've got stable internet and a reliable computer, we can suddenly be together, being mentored by some amazing people like Davy Ruth and Majosi. We've also got Sandras Piri from Pranary Business School who's coming in, some incredible mentors and real-world business leaders who are going to be connecting with our kids and guiding them through this journey over the 5 weeks. And so they're able to really engage with incredible mentors and teachers no matter where they are in South Africa. It's an awesome opportunity.
I was actually going to ask around the partnership and involvement of economist Davy Ruth and musician Majosi.
Yes, absolutely. We've loved working with some of these guys over the years, and they've also been able to come in and see some of what we've been doing in COA and really get excited about the way that we're able to take these sorts of key contents and key skills and deliver them to people across the country. And we've really enjoyed working with them in the past, and they've been incredibly generous with their time and their expertise. And they've said, look, we're coming in and we know that this is something that we're offering free of charge to anybody who's interested. And so they're offering their time and their expertise as well, and are saying they'd love to contribute to this because they can see how much positive impact it's going to have at the end of the day. And so students who complete this, they're going to walk away with a certification from Pranary Business School, a level 1 entrepreneurship certificate, which I think, again, is just such a wonderful way for them to be building their personal CVs from a really young age.
Now, I know that studies indicate that at least 60% of small businesses in South Africa actually fail within that first 12 to 24 months. And in part, this speaks to just a lack of knowledge, perhaps, and even the business planning and some of the skills you talk about.
Yes.
So what will the course focus on over the period of 5 weeks?
Bridget, that's such a relevant statistic to us in South Africa, the rate at which businesses fail. I think there's a lot in there. A lot of it has to do with not having been equipped with the basic skills and expertise and knowledge that you need to be able to launch a successful, sustainable business, and thinking through the basics of things like, how do I do my market research, and how do I do my unit economics to make sure that I'm pricing my product correctly, and how do I pitch this for potential investment? We're going to be leading our young students through all of those thought processes, but at the same time, they're learning really important soft skills, which are real key drivers in businesses succeeding. So we're talking about things like, am I willing to be courageous and take risks? Starting a business, you're going to be stepping out and taking some risks. And unfortunately, traditional education teaches our kids to be scared of making mistakes and to be scared of taking risks, and that failure is not an option. And what we teach them is it's okay to learn through our mistakes and our failures and to grow through that. And we're also learning things like how to collaborate effectively with our peers and how to take meaningful feedback and use that to grow, and how to communicate our ideas effectively. And all of those key soft skills, which are wrapped into the coursework, really set our kids up for success, whether they become business entrepreneurs or not. These are key life skills that are going to turn our young people into successful leaders one day.
I'm interested to know, Mark, because at a sort of developmental stage, the ability to grasp concepts for a 9-year-old and a 16-year-old can be fundamentally different.
Yes.
What is the approach by COA in order to really impart this knowledge to two levels of children? You know, how you teach a 9-year-old and a 16-year-old become fundamentally nuanced in order for them to get the same concept?
Yeah, Bridget, great question. I think there are two things that are really important here. The first is to recognize that the key skills and tools that we're teaching are universal. So whether you're 9 years old or you're 59 years old, the way that we think about some of these things is very similar. And so the tools and techniques that we're teaching to these 9 to 16-year-olds actually are tools and techniques that business schools teach adults when they're starting out. You know, the real fundamentals of thinking about business from a practical, real-world perspective. And you really can do that from a very young age. I think sometimes we underestimate how soon you can introduce some of these ways of thinking to young people. They're hungry for it, and their minds are malleable and ready. The second thing to recognize here as we're teaching these is that we're obviously expecting from them different levels of engagement and application. So the way that we see a 9-year-old applying these tools and this information is going to look different to how a 16-year-old applies it. And so we're able to coach them and guide them, you know, same tools, same framework, but different depths and different levels of complexity. We're expecting more from our 16-year-olds. We're expecting more nuanced projects, more nuanced ideas, more complex challenges that they're trying to solve. But they're using the same techniques, the same basic approach.
Got you. By way of registration, what is the information there that parents need to know who've got entrepreneurial young ones? I know one of our producers here, my colleague Kathy Mhlatlana's producer, his young daughter's in this age range is the local spaza shop. She's quite entrepreneurial. So where do we go for applications?
I'm so happy to hear that. I hope that I meet them on the challenge. It's really straightforward. Anybody 9 to 16 years old is eligible to sign up as long as you've got good internet connection. Just head over to the website koaacademy.com. That's KOAacademy.com. At the top, you'll see a tab that says Events. And when you click on that, it'll direct you to our online entrepreneurship challenge, and you sign up for there. Sign-ups end on the 1st of May. And we kick off with some self-led studies over the next 5 weeks with a live session every Wednesday afternoon.
Wonderful stuff. Mark Anderson, we appreciate the time. Mark is the COA Academy principal, walking us through that 5-week online entrepreneurship challenge that's targeting South African youth aged 9 to 16. And, you know, from all the conversations that we have with various stakeholders on this show, to what Mark said, very important to start harnessing and developing these skills from a very young age. So koaacademy.com is where you go, koaacademy.com, and you click on the events tab and you'll get all the necessary information. Lebu, I hope you've taken down notes for our young budding entrepreneur. I kid you not, we've got a little spaza happening here with the young one. We're supporting her endeavors as she supplies us all of our sugary eats. So I'm sure she'll get a lot of information from this as to how to take her business to the next steps. It's a few seconds to go before 2 o'clock. Khulufelo standing by with your 2 o'clock news, and then we'll come back on the other side and continue the conversations.
Thanks, Bridget. Top stories this hour. Jeff Radebe takes a stand in Albert Lutuli's inquest, and gold hit record high. Good afternoon. The ANC's Jeff Radebe has testified before the reopened inquest into the death of Chief Albert Lutuli that the party has never believed that Lutuli died in a train accident. Radebe is the ANC's provincial tax team convener in KZN. He's testifying at the inquest in the Pietermaritzburg High Court on behalf of the party. Lutuli Luthuli died in July 1967 after he was reportedly struck by a goods train. The initial report, or rather inquest, ruled that his death was an accident. Hadebe informed the court about how Luthuli was persecuted like many black South Africans by the apartheid government.
A week before Deputy President Tambo and James Chikarema, the Vice President of ZAPU, made that military command call to war comrades, the apartheid regime assassinated President Luthuli in Gradville and covered up this brutal murder as a goods train accident. No one in the ANC, the liberation movement, and the freedom-loving people across the globe believed the fiction story of a train accident. This cold-blooded killing of President Luthuli was the beginning of acts of assassination of liberation movement leaders.
The EFF in Mpumalanga has cast aspersions following Mpumalanga Premier Mandla Ndlovu's announcement that he's launched an investigation into the Provincial Education Department. This is after it emerged that 22 laptops were purchased by the department for over 2 million rand, which sparked outrage and concerns over procurement irregularities and possible overspending. Ntsako Precious Mkabela is the EFF member of Provincial Legislature in Mpumalanga.
There is nothing that they are investigating. This is the way of them getting away with this matter. There's nothing to be investigated because in the first place, you shouldn't have received something that you have not agreed upon. Now you have received the laptops which were not according to the specification, and now you're coming back and tell us that you are going to investigate. What is it that you are going to investigate? Because you've already received the laptop from the service provider. There's nothing to investigate here. It's just a game that they are playing.
The ANC in the Northern Cape says it is preparing itself for tough local government elections next year following their dip in the 2025 or rather 24 national and provincial elections. The party's 10th elective conference kicks off in Kimberley today. Treasurer General Gwen Ramogopa will open the conference. Those attending include the first provincial premier Manedi Picho and former party chairperson John Block, who is now a parolee. Provincial ANC Deputy Chairperson Bentley Vaz has warned members of the tough road that lies ahead of the 2026 elections.
As we host this conference, let us be very aware that we are preparing for 2026 local government elections, comrades. It will not be an easy local government election. So we have the responsibility to fight it as this collective on the ground, making sure that we win this local government elections in 2026.
Former Deputy President Dr. Phumzile Mlambo Ngcuka says Pope Francis passed away at a time when his contribution is most needed. She says the Pope passed away as the world recovers from the devastating COVID-19 wars and sexual violence within the Church. The Pope died yesterday at the age of 88 after weeks of poor health. Mlambo Ngcuka explains.
Actually, he was also a leader at a very complicated time. The wars between peoples of faith, now Gaza. So it was not easy. He always had to take a stand on this.
And finally, further afield, the price of gold has hit a new high and U.S. stocks and the dollar suffered further falls amid continuing market unease over U.S. economic policy. President Donald Trump has renewed his criticism of the chair of the Federal Reserve, calling Jerome Powell a loser for not lowering interest rates. The BBC's Michelle Fleury has the details.
At the start of this year, the U.S. economy was looking pretty good. Plenty of economists were feeling upbeat. Many of them were forecasting growth of around 2.5%. But that optimism, it's starting to cool off. The International Monetary Fund is expected to dial down its global growth forecast, in large part because of Trump's trade war, which is being felt well beyond US borders.
The top story this hour, the ANC's Jeff Hadebe has testified before the reopened inquest into the death of Chief Albert Luthuli that the party has never believed that Luthuli died in a train accident. Hadebe informed the court about how Luthuli was persecuted like many black South Africans by the apartheid government. Headlines at 2:30 for SFM News. I'm Kolofelo Defo.
Here, there, and everywhere. SAFM 104.4 FM in Durban.
The Spanish Princess series continues the story of Queen Catherine and Henry VIII. Catherine's struggle to produce an heir places her marriage and position in the court at risk, and she's haunted by her choices from the past. Despite proving herself a politician, a diplomat, and a national inspiration, and even a military commander, Catherine must battle to save her love with the king and to preserve the peace and prosperity of their reign. The Spanish Princess Season 2 airs Saturdays at 9:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Ashraf Gada on SAFM.
Give us some context what actually happened firstly.
Ashraf, the payments that were made in the month of March to the TVET college students were amounting to 10,800, which was designated for accommodation. All in all, the students received 13,800. Now, this 10,800 is the amount that students are supposed to release to accommodation providers.
To Ishmael Nisi, the NSFAS spokesperson.
The National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m. Missed it? Find the podcast at safm.co.za. SAFM supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAFM, leading the conversation. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Inspire. Oh, you take me so high.
Masinga coming through featuring Jay Something on this one. It's lovely to work with people who are musically inclined and who appreciate music, because then my tech operator today, if you are live streaming us, they should have more shots of what happens here in studio. Reverse shots, my tech operator. He just said it's got like a Beatenberg vibe. Like, actually does. It does very much have a Beatenberg vibe to it. I never noticed it until you just said it now, Mondli, that it's got that kind of rhythm to it. And I wonder if at some point I'll find out. Maybe you find that one of the producers who worked on this are also producers that have worked with Beatenberg at some point or another. It's just gone 10 past 2 o'clock. On the Full Circle with myself, Bridget Masinga on SAFM. Yes, we are live streaming. You can catch us on all of our social media handles if you want to see what happens in studio. Not much, except for some, background characters. Those background characters. I'm a proponent for the background characters, and I'm going to say it until they are convinced, for them to feature a bit more on the show, so you can see what it takes to put all these shows together. But they're also camera shy. All right, so we're going to have a conversation now, because it is a Tuesday and we're having a health and wellness conversation. So we're going to have a conversation around the rise of women having babies in their 40s. I got a lot of this. This post was circulating around over the last couple of weeks, and folks were sharing it. And we thought we'd have a conversation and unpack some of the factors perhaps that are at play here, things around societal norms, the shift in societal norms, but also some of the medical data that's been suggested, that's coming out, that speaks to issues around reproductive health, fertility health amongst couples, and how that translates into this demographic of women in their 40s now having kids. Dr. Juliette Sambo joins us, lecturer in the Department of Social Work at the University of Pretoria. How are you doing this afternoon?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you. I'm fine. I'm doing very well. And you?
I am great, Dr. Juliette. I'm great. Thank you so much for the time. Much, much appreciated. So in recent years, there's been a significant shift. We know this in societal norms. The conversation has shifted a little bit when it comes to childbearing. And according to a recent report from the CDC's National Vital Statistics System, births amongst women in their 40s have more than tripled since 1990. Well, since 1990. What factors come into play here? What is impacting this sort of move towards later births?
Yeah, this is a quite interesting, trend that is just coming up with regards to what you are discussing from the CDC research, talking about those ones on the 40s. They say now the 40s are the 20 years. They are the ones who are having more babies than previously. But I think there are so many factors that would contribute to this. If you look at the trend, so you could see that I think these days women, we also like career oriented. Yeah. So you would want to focus on your studies and also looking at the advancement of reproductive technologies. So women, as they develop themselves, they are empowered. They know about their own bodies and they take control of their bodies. And they can plan when they can start having family. So basically, I think it's the empowerment of women, the fact that women also are also in the corporate world, and you want to finish maybe your degree and another degree, and also to be somewhere there. So I think, there are a number of contributing factors also. And I think the other thing you mentioned was the societal shift. The way we are thinking, our attitudes have changed in comparison to the past, whereby, the girl child was not considered. You can see that now the girl child is considered now you are also thinking of building your own career and having, something, to show. You can see that, I think, even in the university, we see a lot of girls, flying high, even higher than the boys.
Yeah.
So, so they want to acquire something in the community, in the society. So this change of attitude towards marriage also helps. So women are now prioritizing their career development. Yeah, I think that is the other thing. Also, when you look at technology, maybe it might not be very high here in South Africa or in other countries, but in the Western, in the North, you can see that these technologies also help in terms of you can delay having babies by freezing your egg, and you use it when you want to use it in future.
Yeah.
So such things also help. And also you can see that the 40s, the teenage pregnancy is declining a little bit, though not much this side, but also you can see that it has dropped, maybe because of improved access to use of effective contraceptives. And also, we have sex education in schools. So women are becoming more aware of their own sexual health.
Yeah.
And as I've mentioned, also the social changes, focusing on education and having future prospects for their own lives. Yeah.
And
And
it's an interesting sort of shift, and we'll definitely delve deeper, because I think on the one hand, as you've mentioned, there's all those societal shifts and norms, and obviously the advancements in technology, and there's pros and cons to those advancements. But on the other hand, when you speak to IVF practitioners, IVF specialists, they also speak to data that correlates that even in countries like South Africa, where population growth has never been a factor of concern, we are now seeing women in their 30s, at sort of quote unquote prime birthing ages, now struggling to actually conceive, now having fertility issues. So on the one hand, there's the social elements of it, of choice and women's rights. But on the other hand, there's also the medical phenomenon that has been suggested by IVF specialists to say, in fact, there is a medical fertility issue that's also at play with women in their 30s, even in countries like South Africa, where when you look at population growth, you think there's no problem.
Yeah, we can say that. But I think also as you age, challenges also slip in. But research has shown that IVF can help. There is in vitro fertilization. That one helps also for those ones who are in their 40s to be able to have a child. And also because of the advanced technologies, also it's safer at 40 when you are aged, because of the medical, the close monitoring of women when you are pregnant. And so it's safe for both the mother and the child to be able to thrive afterwards when you compare in the past. Because when you are aged, you are 39 or above, they would consider it's not safe for you to be pregnant. As much as I know that there are implications when you are above 40, you have got your own issues to deal with at that age with pregnancy. Yes. So when you talk about fertility rate and all those challenges, there are a lot of medical care. There's a lot of things that can help for someone to be able to have your own child.
Dr. Juliet, I just want us to go on a quick break, and then we'll come back on the other side of this and continue this conversation.
save, and win a car with Spar for real. Stand to win one of 50 fiery red Hyundai Grand i10 sedans. Buy any participating products and swipe your rewards card to enter. Get 200-gram Jacob's Crown coffee jar or 230-gram refill for $144.99 plus 400 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 1 liter Spar Long Life Milk 6-pack for $89.99 plus 200 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Price is valid until 6 May while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
The Seagulls believe their fighting spirit will match their style of football as they chase valuable points.
Pedro in front of the Leicester fans against Hermanson, and he rolls it home. Joao Pedro gives Albion the lead.
While the Hammers have a big task to prevail away from home.
Clips it in there, and Bowen! And West Ham United have turned this game around.
This is the Premier League. Catch the nail-biting action. Brighton and Hove Albion versus West Ham United FC on Saturday 26 April at 3:30 p.m. live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
At Duvet Tradeport, we specialize in helping businesses grow through state-of-the-art manufacturing, infrastructure, logistics services, and international trade links. We're an advanced environment for doing business where most ambitious companies gather. If you're seeking progressive opportunities and looking to build mutually beneficial relationships, move to duvettradeport.co.za to see your business grow beyond potential.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
We are in conversation with Dr. Juliet Sambo, who is the lecturer in the Department of Social Work at the University of Pretoria. And there's been a rise in women having babies in their 40s. And of course, we're exploring this conversation, especially from a shift within societal norms. And the role that autonomy and agency is playing in women's reproductive health. Let's speak about that as well. You touched on it earlier on, Dr. Juliet, just around this autonomy. But, you know, I also want to speak on the pros and cons of it, right? Because we've had these advancements in women's rights, pro-choice and our ability to determine our own body's destiny. And which is a wonderful thing for women to have. But at the same time, I think the other part of the conversation is also understanding that sometimes the delaying of starting something may not work to the advantage of somebody. There are pros and cons is what I'm trying to say. There are pros and cons to the autonomy and the agency.
Yeah. I think you are right. As I mentioned earlier on, that there might be challenges when you are age 40, you are considered older, mature, and the challenges could be complications of pregnancy themselves. So when you are old, chances are that you can have, research has shown that those who are old, you can have a child, issues with the child. Maybe the child can be born with a Down syndrome in terms of the child, but sometimes the complications would be with you as a mother, as a woman. So basically, maybe a lot of them can have maybe high blood pressure or maybe complications like preeclampsia that affects you as you are pregnant at an older age. So sometimes diabetes. So there are also a lot of complications with that. As much as we have got a lot of information, as much as we are empowered and having a lot of maybe healthcare services that we can easily access, but these are the internal challenges that somebody who is above age can have. That even abortion can also happen at this age. So complications are many, and if you are not fortunate enough, other women can lose their lives through the process. Yeah, and so there are pros and cons to it, yeah.
And truth, Dr. Juliet, as well, the sad truth that perhaps we don't want to speak about sometimes is the fact that there is a cost. There is a real cost to choice, a real financial cost, because the scientific data speaks to the biology of women and how that works in a regressive manner for women. And so the more you delay, for whatever your personal reasons are, no one is judging that, but the more you delay, by the time you decide that perhaps you want to start having a family, there could be real financial cost to it because of the scientific interventions that might be needed. You know, when people say we celebrate Janet Jackson having a baby at 50, we celebrate an Ashanti having a baby, there's all these celebrity examples of women having babies later. But 90% of the time, there has been scientific intervention by way of IVF, which has come at a great cost.
Yes, as you have rightly said, IVF is very expensive. So, yeah, that one goes with financial implications. But also the same research has shown that maybe at your 40, maybe you have accumulated a lot because you have developed yourself. But the financial implication is very high. Because it doesn't just end with the IVF, and how about in terms of monitoring the whole pregnancy to reach 10? It's also another financial implication.
Very costly.
And also the time you are going to have your baby, it's not an easy thing. It might not be a normal delivery. You might have to go through, cesarean section, the selective one, which is also an implication in terms of your medical bills. You might stay in the hospital longer than there's someone who has got a normal baby, normal delivery. So yes, that one is something. The other thing I think that maybe it might not be physical, but if you are at 40 or at 50 having your firstborn, it's not easy to raise a child. So the time you are old, the child is still maybe a teenager. And how are you going to manage that? So there are those complications that are not said.
Yeah,
we don't talk about those ones.
And and that I think speaks also to perhaps the implications of this on society and future generations, right? Maybe let's touch on that a little bit. What might those be?
Yeah, so when you talk about generation, I think, I don't know how many generations are there now, because at your 40, there's a very big generational gap. That it might also be very difficult for you to understand your own child because of the way things change so quick, trends, in terms of technology, in terms of lifestyle, in terms of you being an aged someone and having a smaller child. So societal issues, it might be very difficult for you also to raise up your child in a fast racing society, and you as an older woman might not pace up with the needs of your child at that age.
Yeah, we have to leave it there for this afternoon, but I think you started us off on one part of a conversation, and I think it's definitely one that we'll revisit as well, perhaps even more deeper from the scientific intervention perspective of it, because there's still so much that's not understood around the implications, the costs, and the feasibility of having children at a later stage. And I know IVF is often peddled as the miracle intervention, but it only does so much because it only works in tandem with nature, really. But just laying the landscape of the social implications this afternoon, that was Dr. Juliet Sambo, who's a lecturer in the Department of Social Work at the University of Pretoria. It's just gone 2:30. We're going to get into the headline news, and then we come back on the other side with our kids programming.
Good afternoon, I'm Kulafelo, therefore with the headlines. The most wanted 4 members of a notorious gang in Amaodi area of Inanda Township north of Durban have been arrested in connection with over 20 murder cases. The ANC's Jeff Hadebe has testified before the reopened inquest into the death of Chief Albert Luthuli that the party has never believed that Luthuli died in a train accident. Hadebe informed the court about how Luthuli was persecuted like many black South Africans by the apartheid regime. And Netball South Africa has been grilled by Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Sport, Arts and Culture this morning. The federation, whose president Cecilia Molokwane was suspended by the world governing this weekend, failed to table its 2023 to 2024 financial statements during today's meeting. I'll have the details at 3.
You are listening to The Full Circle. This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
My name is Bridget Masinga. I am 10 years old. There are many simple things we can do every day to help take care of the earth, like reduce, reuse and recycle materials like paper, glass and cans. We can also conserve water and use less energy, like turning off the lights when we leave a room, walk or use a bike instead of using cars, plant more trees and flowers. It's really important to keep the earth clean and healthy because it is our home and we share it with many living things. When earth is clean, people can breathe better, animals have a safe place to live and plants can grow strong. Yes, I have planted a peach tree, vegetables and flowers. I enjoy growing plants. It is one of my favorite things to do. My teacher and parents says growing plants help with many things like trees and plants can clean the air. It supports wildlife and prevents soil erosion and also provide food for us. Thank you.
My name is Diretsanglu and I go to Mokoli House School. A few small things that we can do every day to help take care of the earth are to recycle more, especially because we cannot simply expect people to let go of the things that, yes, can be harmful to the earth, but satisfying and pleasing to the human. Plus, it is not always easy to live a minimalistic or environmental life. We could also reduce littering and the waste of many things, and rather find useful ways to use all garbage and waste. I think it's important to keep the earth clean and healthy for people, animals and plants because an unhealthy earth could lead to an unhealthy way of living. And we can't let future generations live on an earth that is unhealthy and not well cared for. Yes, I've planted a vegetable before. Planting can help the earth by increasing oxygen, it can create a greater food supply, and can overall be very pleasing to the eye, filling our earth and making it look very lovely.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Natemba and my surname is Bavuma. There are small things we can do to take care of the earth. We can plant trees or pick up papers every week. It's important to keep the earth clean and healthy for people, animals and plants because they give us food to eat. I have planted a tree and it was an apple tree. It grew and it's now here. We can take food from it because it's now providing for us.
Hello, my name is Entle Shabangu and today is International Mother Earth Day. Some things that we can do to take care of the earth is we can recycle, reuse, reduce. I think it is very important that we keep the earth clean at all times. and so that people are healthy, so that people are able to live longer, and animals and plants, so that we can all live freely in a happy life. And I have planted a tree from the Checkers. The Checkers used to have these collectible trees and plants. I used to plant those, and I'm not sure how far they are going because I've not seen them in a while. But yes, I have planted some trees, and sometimes I try and walk around the garden in my house, my parents' house, to fix it. Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Karabo. Things we can do to help save the earth and take care of the earth is to actually clean up after ourselves and stop littering. And also, once we see litter on the floor, we could pick it up in order to keep our earth clean. I think it's important to keep the earth clean and healthy for people, animals, and plants because, first of all, plants give us oxygen and they reiterate the carbon dioxide that we breathe out. It helps our animals, keep them safe because some animals may not know it and eat plastic and they end up dying. And for people, I feel like it's just necessary for people who may have sickness issues in which litter and bad air could affect them. I have planted flowers before. Planting could help the earth because it gives us oxygen and it also reiterates the carbon dioxide that we breathe out. So it's really good for our breathing system. It's good for animals and people because it helps us breathe in oxygen. It helps us breathe in fresh air. Thank you for listening.
Hello friends and happy Tuesday. Today is a very special day. It's International Mother Earth Day. That means it's a perfect time to celebrate our beautiful planet and talk about how we can take care of it. Not just today, but every single day. So what are some small things we can do to help keep our earth happy and healthy? We can pick up litter and throw it in the bin. We can recycle paper, plastic and cans. We can save water by turning off taps when not in use. We can turn off lights and electronics when we're not using them. These small actions may not seem like much, but if we all do them, they make a huge difference. Why do you think it's important to keep the earth clean and healthy? Well, it's because this is the only home we have. For us, for animals, and for plants. When we take care of the earth, we make sure there's cleaner air to breathe, safer water to drink, and a healthy environment to live in. Have you ever planted a tree, flower, or vegetables? If you have, that's amazing. Planting things helps the earth by giving us fresh air, healthy soil, and even food to eat. Trees and plants are like the earth's helpers. They clean the air, provide homes for animals, and keep the planet cool. So today and every day, let's do something kind for the earth. Even if it's just planting one seed or picking up a piece of litter. Happy Earth Day, my friends. Let's keep our planet clean, green, and beautiful. Until next time, keep being kind to the earth and to each other. Bye for now.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
Meet Maria. Meet her family, the Ramirez. One wrong step and they will have you swimming with the fishes. Meet Amadeo, a trained lawyer and member of the rival business clan, the Mateus. The two fall in love and Maria's dreams of a happily ever after change when Madeo is murdered at their wedding. Their daughter, Jo, despises her mother's humble beginnings and will do anything to steal all of Maria's fortune. This is the world of Sweet Diva. Airs weekdays at 4:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Top Sport on SAFM.
The road to Basketball Africa League. MMB basketball captain Lebesa Selepe is all set and ready to lead the squad. How are you making sure that the team is fully prepared for this crucial stage of the BL?
I guess to me it's one day at a time, right? You have to take it one day at a time. You actually make sure that you at every practice station, you're 100%. You're ready to give it your all. Because at the end of the day, you can't win every single game at the same time. You have to take it one quarter at a time, one game at a time, one day at a time, So we're just staying in the moment, making sure that we go through our reps, making sure that we focus on every single detail that's required.
Talking about this journey, how's the team been performing so far?
Look, so far we're playing great basketball. We're also playing in the Inner City Super League, which is one of the local leagues in Johannesburg, and we're undefeated so far,
Top Sport on SAFM. If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation. Bridget Masinga on SAFM.
All right, well, let's end off the show on a feel-good note today. We're catching up with Ozinel, who's the Chief Operating Officer for SA Harvest and their National Food Rescue Organization. Today's Earth Day, and the theme is Our Power, Our Planet. And we'll find out more about what that theme speaks to and also what they've got planned as SA Harvest. How are you doing, Ozzy?
I'm very well, and you, Bridget?
I'm great. Thank you so much. So Earth Day, right? Firstly, I know a lot of folks know the concept behind Earth Day, but for those folks who are waking up from a slumber, give us some background.
Well, I will say we don't just have to plant trees. We're going to do a little bit more than that, but I do feel we need to plant a few trees as well. But for SA Harvest, I think Earth Day is really about creating awareness, growing our collective that we're building in the space. As an organization, we say to a lot of people we're a food rescue organization, and they don't always understand what that means. For us, what that really means is that we work in the food value chain, and we enable large-scale manufacturers and farmers to redirect any surplus edible food that they have into the hands of community-based organizations that would then turn that into nutritious meals for so many marginalized people in our communities.
And in fact, the work that you do, Ozzy, by way of just being a food rescue organization, it also adds to the conversation around the environmental impact of food rescue.
Absolutely. A lot of food. In South Africa alone, we know that more than 10 million tons of edible food ends up in landfill. And that creates some of the worst greenhouse gases, specifically methane gas. And we know that is a huge contributor to global warming.
Yeah. In 2024, last year, you guys rescued just under 5 million kilograms of food. I can't even fathom what that looks like. Talk to us about that number and of course just the implications of that food. Had it ended up perhaps in a landfill, what would it have meant?
Look, I'm not an expert in the space, but we've worked with really great guys that work in the space, like Kevin and his team from GCX. But just to put it in layman's terms for you, if you're looking at almost 5 million kilograms of food going to landfill, you're looking at almost 12,000 tons of methane gas being released into the atmosphere. And as an organization, since inception, we have managed to redirect food that has prevented over 50,000 tons of methane gas being let into the atmosphere.
We often speak around the realities of food insecurity in South Africa. I think by now we all know that it's not a case of we don't have food. It's a case of other factors that ensure food availability and affordability for the most vulnerable in South Africa. How do individuals and companies, how do they take part and take action in meaningful ways?
Look, like I said, we are building a collective to really tackle this. There is enough. We just got to, through a very smart distribution model, get it to the right organizations that can turn it into meals. So we are always looking for people that can open some doors for us, that might know someone, that knows somebody, from a food rescue point of view. We're also building really interesting tech around understanding the real need on the ground, because it's not always just food. There's loads of other social issues that need to be tackled. And I would love for people just to go to our website, which is www.saharvest.org, and drop us a line, get involved, see where you can make a meaningful contribution.
By way of things like education and awareness, and perhaps innovation, what role does that play in conversations around food rescue? We'll use the term that is synonymous with the work that you do around food rescue.
You know what? I think it's two sides to that coin. From a research point of view, we need a lot more data on the ground. We've started building an app ourselves where because we deliver for free to our community-based organizations on a weekly basis, we weren't able to build those relationships with them and get better data to understand really what's happening in the space. On the other side, we are dealing with a crisis of malnutrition as well in South Africa. And if we don't tackle that right now and get a better understanding of the problem, in 20 years from now, we're going to have a real crisis on our hands, because there are so many rising stars coming out of these marginalized communities. And if we don't tackle the nutrition right now, they won't have the cognitive ability to be those rising stars we need for the future.
Let's talk a bit about this year's Earth Day, of course, which is today. And the theme is Our Power, Our Planet. And you guys have collaborated with Norton Rose for an initiative. Talk to us about that.
Yes, this is the third year in a row that we are actually having Norton Rose and their team cooking with us, with rescued food at our community-based organizations. We've done this for a few other companies as well, and it's the perfect way to really showcase what happens on the ground, what people are going through, but it's also very aspirational for the people on the ground, to meet industry leaders and to share their stories.
And so the cook-off, the food rescue cook-off, is happening in Cape Town, Johannesburg, and Durban. Who the beneficiaries of the cook-off?
These are SA Harvest beneficiaries. So we've got quite a few. So we choose different ones per event, but they all come out of our stable. And the organizations that we pinpointed for this year specifically focus on kids. And it ranges from what we call small EPD centers. There are 1 or 2 orphanages involved, and also actually some shelters, some homeless shelters that deal with young people.
All right. And of course, for folks that want to plug in, I know obviously this is something that you're doing in collaboration with Norton Rose and some of your stakeholders, but just for folks that want to plug into the broader work that SA Harvest does throughout the year, maybe you can give us a rundown of 1 or 2 of the campaigns that you focus on intently, and how folks can plug into that.
Look, the other big one for us is buckets of nutrition. We've had huge success in the past, where we are in quite a few shopping centers across South Africa, and we are actually packing buckets of food on a large scale that we then redistribute to the most marginalized in certain communities that we deal with. That one is always very popular. But people should, like I say, there'll be a lot on our webpage. We are actually in the process of putting a yearly calendar on the webpage for people to look at. And then for corporates out there, I will also say that we're doing a lot by being the conduit and giving them opportunity to align some of their own ESG goals with what we do as an organization.
Awesome stuff. Ozinel, I always appreciate the time. He's the Chief Operating Officer at SA Harvest, and you can find them on saharvest.org. It's just gone 10 to 3 o'clock. We're counting down till the show wraps up, but we'll come back on the other side of this. Let's take a quick break.
It's the catch of the season as our 3 madcap fishing fanatics are back, embarking on even a more exciting adventures across the globe. Get ready for bigger fish, bigger laughs, and more extreme destinations in a series packed with adrenaline-fueled fishing antics and plenty of friendly rivalry. Fishing Impossible Season 2, Fridays at 10 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Night Talk with Oliver Dixon.
When leaders need to account, we call on them. When society needs to debate, reflect, and advance, we're here to have the conversation. Join me, Oliver Dixon, on Night Talk every Monday to Thursday from 10 to 12 midnight.
SAFM music, crafted to make you feel real good.
As the night moves in,
Handpicked just for your pleasure. Classics sounding so good only on SAFM. SAFM has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
All right. In the final minutes of the show, preparing to wrap up, Oliver is in today for Ashraf. So he's coming through on the National Pulse between 3 and 6 o'clock. Did you know that today is World Tea Day, by the way? I don't know if you knew this, but yes, today is World Tea Day. And they just asked me, I think maybe they thought I'd say I don't drink tea. But then I was going to be shocked because they've been producing the show for how many years now, since its inception? Because they said, what tea do you take? Almost thinking that I would not have an automatic response to this. I do rooibos. I'm a rooibos drinker, and yes, I do rooibos with milk, preferably a combination of milk and cremora. Don't judge. We listen, we don't judge. There's something about cremora that adds something to rooibos, okay? So I do rooibos with milk and cremora and honey, yes. And ever since we had the rooibos expert, we had a rooibos expert, and he's a lecturer, if I can't recall, on the show last year sometime. And was talking to us about, some properties around rooibos and some of the work that's been studied around rooibos. I now have like a super concentrated cup of rooibos tea. It's no longer just one tea bag, but it's 2 or 3. Because he was suggesting that, we should have more rooibos to feel the benefits. So I cheat and I put more tea bags to make it stronger. I'm a tea person. Let me see, what are these? Chai I dabble in. Let's see some of these vibes here, because I wonder what kind of teas we drink as Africans. So other teas that are popular in the different regions of Africa: mint tea. Mint tea is popular in North Africa, particularly in Morocco. I can understand that to some degree. Never been to Morocco, but I can kind of see why. Hibiscus tea, also known as rosal? Rosal is enjoyed in West Africa, and it's made from dried petals of the hibiscus flower. And I presume that the hibiscus flower must be quite indigenous to that part of the continent, right? And then ginger tea, interestingly enough, is a popular remedy in East Africa. I wonder what that speaks to. Do you think that speaks to perhaps the migration from the east moving down onto the coast of the continent? Because no food or drink lives within isolation. So, ginger tea to make it to... I wonder, actually. Or maybe they're just big growers of ginger. It would be interesting. It would be interesting to find out. But yes, and then chai from India is popular throughout many parts of Africa. But I also think that that's a new popularity. That's the new girl in town. What do they say? Yes, the new baddie that's entered the villa of teas is a chai tea. So I think that just speaks to where we are now with younger generations of Africa, and people obviously exploring, other things from different cultures and all around the world, and bringing chai to the continent. But yes, I'm a big tea drinker. That is where we'll leave it today for the show. Of course, Oliver is coming through between 3 and 6 o'clock on the National Pulse, standing in for Ashraf Gada. For myself and my team, we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for choosing to be in conversation with us. Inshallah, God willing, we get to do it again.
Never been afraid of love until you came into my world. Now I'm standing on the edge of heaven. Is it real a fantasy that you want to be with me? Judging by our chemistry, it's heaven. And no matter what they do, and no matter what they say, it don't mean a thing. It's our dream, ain't nobody getting in the way. What matters more today is when tomorrow comes, you'll stay. I promise you won't throw my heart away, 'cause I'll never give up on your love. Baby, I'll never give up on your love. Girl, I'll never give up. You got me, baby. Baby, I'll never give up on your love, 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 love. Da 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 da. It ain't no mystery. The truth is plain to see. 'Cause now you're here with me. Nobody gonna take you away from heaven. 'Cause you make living in this world magical. A brand new love, spiritual. Yes, you are from heaven. And no matter what they do, and no matter what they say, it don't mean a thing. It's our dream, ain't nobody getting in the way. What matters more today is when tomorrow comes, you'll stay. I promise you won't throw my heart away, 'cause I'll never give up on your love. Baby, I'll never give up on your love. Girl, I'll never give up. You got me, baby. Baby, I'll never give up on your love. On your love, 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 love. The way you love me